Everyone, good evening. This is Antonio Barona. I'm the CEO of INCIE. I would like to welcome everyone to this Quarantine Chronicles. Tonight we have a very special guest all over from Brazil. Marcio is a really nice friend I met 2 years ago at the Harvard Business School. We did a training together. Well, Marco works for Itaú. He's a really large bank in Latin America. And he kindly decided to join us to share his experience during this special situation that we're all living worldwide. So, Marcio, good evening. How are you?
Hi, Antonio. Good evening. Well, first, thank you very much for inviting me to this conversation. I'm very happy to be here. So far, so good. Family is good. Everyone doing well. So it would be great to have this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you again for joining us. So, as usual, as we normally follow these quarantine episodes, we have a structure of 6 parts. The first one that we're going to start is obviously to introduce the relationship between the different organizations that we normally have really close contacts to, which includes government, small companies, big companies, educational institutions, research centers, and also finance organizations. With Itaú, well, and with Marcio, we met 2 years ago during this training. And today we're just, like I said, really pleased to welcome him to this section. So this is the 6 parts that we're going to focus our conversation today. Initially, we're going to have let Marcio introduce himself to tell us a little bit about himself, his studies, his education, his background, and also his role at this bank. And then just Marcio is going to tell us a bit about the efforts that his organization might be doing during this period. And then we're going to jump into the effects on the industry and the insights from the future. And at the end, we're just going to have quite a few questions and answers. And that's pretty much it. Now I'm going to head the floor to Marcio. So Marcio, if you allow us to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Antonio. Well, I'm Marcio Caires. I'm from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I have been living in São Paulo for the last 12 years. São Paulo is the main finance and business district in Brazil. I have always worked in the capital markets. In the beginning, I used to work in the buy side, in the hedge funds. And a few years later, I moved to the sell side when I was running the derivatives desk at Itaú. Since then, I have been increasing my scope at Itaú. Currently, I run the sales and trading desks of fixed income, FX, and derivatives at Itaú. My graduation, I'm an engineer. I would say that at capital markets in Brazil, I think globally as well, engineers usually are demands at the capital markets once we have logics and math skills. But once we are on a daily basis talking about macroeconomic and different finance instruments, I have decided to study a little bit more. So after that, I took a mastership in economics and also the CFA degree, which is an international finance degree, 3 years with very different scopes. And I would say one of the main topics that they explore deeply is about ethics. So it's very important, not only at capital markets, but everywhere. And a few years ago, once I started to manage a bigger team, to have deeper discussions at the bank about strategy, innovation, I have decided to apply to this Harvard Business University program, where I have the great opportunity to meet Antonio, a great friend, a great colleague, and someone that I really had the opportunity to learn a lot about him. Well, talking about Itaú, just talking about Itaú. Itaú, as you mentioned, is a big bank. Actually, it's the largest private bank in Latin America. We have the wholesale division and the retail division. We have offices in different countries of Latin America: Chile, Peru, Argentina, Colombia, Mexico, also in New York, Miami, Lisbon, and London, Switzerland. So we are in different parts of the world. So that's a little bit about our company.
What about the environmental aspects of the bank? You know, nowadays banks are investing a lot on new technologies, on green technologies. Is your bank directly working on this aspect?
Yeah, very hard actually. So Itaú has always been focused on trying to have a print related to technology, a print related to sustainability. So Itaú usually have a special division related to invest in positive social impacts. We have at our Itaú Asset Management some products that are related to only for companies that are focused on positive sustainability. So I would say that we have the bank as a whole is very committed on that. Also related to diversity. So we try to have a big scope on this topic.
Within your role right now, how is maybe the current global situation affecting you directly? You know, or your team, or your day by day, that you have experienced big changes?
Yeah. No, that's a very interesting question. I would say that a few months ago, we had a common sense that, for example, home office is something that we could not apply in a bank or in our division. Also, the virtual meetings was something that we were testing. Itaú has always been investing in technology, so it's something that we have been testing and trying internally. But there were some common sense that was not the perfect way to get in touch internally with other divisions and also with clients. But since then, we have changed considerably. We have 90,000, close to this number of employees. Currently, we have 60,000 employees working from their homes. So there were massive investments in technology. I would say that it's a great effort from our IT, from support, from HR, that have been able to create conditions for our employees to be at home safe with their families, comfortable, and also producing and assisting our clients. Because I think that's the role of the bank is not only about its business itself, but also the client centricity that we have always been saying, which is important not only for Itaú, for a bank, but also for the companies as a whole. So we have been able to run, I would say, 80% of the full capacity from our homes. So that's a very good thing that we are proud to say that we have been able to assist our clients from homes and keeping them safely, and our employees as well.
In my professional life, this is the second crisis that I have experienced, apart from the financial crisis of 2008. I was already in Madrid. That time, it was a purely financial crisis. So we were always talking about saving the banks, and yeah, supporting the banks, and saving the economy. But in this case, it's a little bit different. It's a health crisis, and banks obviously have a very big role to support industry through loans and through some other aspects. Uh, what do you think are the main big opportunities right now at the moment, based on what is happening?
Well, I would say that giving a stepping back, but also exploring this topic, it's interesting to what you mentioned, because when you talk about to 2008 and 9 financial crisis. And also part of this crisis, it requires some finance support. So it's interesting because we have two different roles here, not only as a bank, but as a company, as a society. One is related to the finance support, of course. All the private banks have been in touch with the government to extend credit lines, to provide support for the small companies, for the population. But also, as I mentioned, regarding the individual role, the society role, for example, Itaú has donated a few weeks ago 1 billion BRL, which is around $200 million, to a foundation to be focused on health support. So it's not a finance support, it's not related to credit line, it's focused on support, tests, supporting hospitals. So it's something related to the sanitary conditions. So it's something that I think that changed the way that we see ourselves in our society. So I would say that one of the opportunities of this is to face ourselves as an individual in a society, not only relates to where we are placed in an ecosystem as an organization. So I think that's one thing that I'm very proud of being part of this organization, and to see other organizations moving forward in this direction.
A lot has been discussed about the impact in the supply chain worldwide and the dependence on China. How do you see Latin American role in here?
Well, yesterday I was at HBS webinar with one faculty that we had class 3 years ago, and there was a big discussion about globalization, about the role of the countries and competition. I think that regarding Latin America, once most of the countries have, as I mentioned, a complementary role with US, China, and Europe, I would say that there will be new opportunities for us. For example, in Brazil, there is a lot of demand for infrastructure. This is something that will continue to have, that will demand investments coming from different parts of the world. So I would say that for Latin America, as a developing region, I think that the opportunity will still be there, even regarding this whole situation.
I would like to know, from your personal perspective, how do you see the relationship maybe between the COVID-19 and the impact on the environment?
Well, one thing that I mentioned, that there was a big taboo, the common sense of the concerns and difficulties of the home office. I think that was a very positive surprise. When you think about a city like São Paulo, that's usual to see in the news, 200 kilometers of high traffic on the streets, a lot of pollution coming from cars, etc. And in specific times, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. So once we realize that many people are able to work from their homes, or at least to try to alternate the moment that they go to the offices, that's something that will change radically in the short term. For example, here in São Paulo, the quarantine is expected to end at May 10th. Not only at Itaú, but from many other different companies, everyone has been saying that they will not ask their employees to return to the office once, of course, first, because their focus is to have everyone safe and comfortable with their families before going back to office. but also because it's working to work from home. So considering this, there is a big change because I have some people from my division that usually takes almost 2 hours to get to the office. So does it make sense to continue to have those people coming, going every day to the office and at the specific rush time? I don't think so. So once we are able to change this, I think that this has an impact in pollution, it has an impact on the quality of life, and also in the productivity of the companies, because those people will not spend anymore 2 or 3 hours a day going to the offices every day, and so they'll be able to produce more from their house. They'll be more satisfied. So I think that's something very positive. Another thing that's interesting is about the demand for people to stay very close to the offices. And what we have been seeing here at São Paulo, at least for the last few years, is people buying smaller and smaller apartments, so to be close to their offices and independent of the quality of the house that they live. I think this will change. People will be more focused on having bigger apartments or be living in a better place rather than be in a small apartments few blocks from the office, because they are concerned about the traffic that they will take to arrive at the office. So it's a impact possibly in pollution, in quality of life, and due to these different aspects, also in productivity.
Yeah, I think what you're mentioning is it's really interesting, because I think this is um, a global situation that pretty much everyone has been experiencing in the way that uh, this crisis has forced us all to create new habits of work, to have I mean, yeah, on one side more quality, I mean, within our families, to stay connected with our colleagues through technology. I was not very fond of teleworking. You know, I always was needed to have the people in front of me to discuss, to you know, to follow up on the different things in the office, plus the environment, you know, the nice atmosphere that we normally have in the office. But now this is like, okay, it's a new life, it's a new forced, you know,
Yeah.
lifestyle we're all being faced to manage. But yeah, it's on the one side not only having nice impacts on the environment, but also, yeah, sociological. We're going to see many changes. Many businesses are going to change. We have seen all these changes already in the delivery system. I mean, I'm just fascinated to see all the different changes that we're going to be experiencing. We have three questions that I think you have answered already. First one, the first one was, how can COVID help fight climate change? I think you already explained a little bit on that. And do you think the benefits that we've seen until today can be maintained? You know, like, how is it that we could eventually keep up on this? And what actions do you recommend for enduring environmental health?
Well, as I mentioned, the first one we have already explored. I think that regarding the second and three topics, in some way they are related. That the benefits, I think it's about quality of life and also productivity, because one thing that's very interesting that in bigger organizations we have always been used to a lot of meetings, and some people that arrive late on the meeting, so it delays 5, 10, 15 minutes to start. What have been seen is that people are much more committed to productivity, to efficiency. People are more focused on having quick meetings, smaller meetings. I think that's something that is here to stay. And actions that I recommend for enduring environmental health here there was a mix of a crisis related to health, right, to this pandemic, but also economic crisis. So, and what we realized that we only be able to produce, to be productivity and efficient with your health. So I think that people realize that they need to have uh, important and good quality of life and health conditions to work. So I think that people will be more concerned to have this better way of life, and, people miss to go to the gym, to go to the beach. So they realize that these small things are very important to have a good conscience and a good psychology conditions to work. So I think that's something that people, you think about priorities in their life, and I think that at the end of the day, this also will ensure a higher productivity and better results for the organization and for the society as a whole.
I have one last question to you, Marcio.
Sure.
You're a very well experienced professional, even though that you're still very young, but you have a lot of experience. What would be your advice to someone that just graduated the university and needs, is a young professional looking for opportunities, and boom, now is facing this global crisis? Um, what would you tell to people like this?
Well, I think that it's interesting because, as I mentioned, as an engineer in capital markets and finance degree and etc., I have been always focused on technical skills, and I think I would say that when I put together everything that I have learned for these last 2 decades, it was what we have learned at Harvard about the diversity and different opinions, and the importance of the contact of different cultures. So I would recommend to have as much as possible broader and different perspectives and experience. So of course, according to the job and position that you have, you need to be specialized, but have this experience and have this contact with different cultures and different knowledge is something that I really recommend strongly. So the program, for example, that you have there, yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for everyone who is in the beginning of their career. I think in any part of the career, as I mentioned, I had this opportunity after 16 years of career. It was wonderful for me. But if I had the opportunity to have this in the beginning of my career, I think it would be even more interesting because, as I mentioned, many times organizations are used to look for consensus, to similar professionals. And once you have this contact with a different perspective, you open your mind, and I think to become a much better professional and individual.
Okay. So, Marcio, I would like to thank you so much for your time. It has been really nice to speaking with you during this quarantine episode. Our objective was to have a different point of view, not only from the banking industry, but from an individual and very good professional from Brazil, to have this different perspective. So thank you very much for your time, and well, so we keep in touch.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.